ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome that person, that visionary, who actually is the reason behind this beautiful evening. Are you ready? Let's call him.
Oh my God. I am so nervous to be sharing the stage with this rock star over here who looks so handsome like he's 30 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Nico, everybody. Well, first of all, how are you feeling, Solidaridad? Are you excited? Well, I'm Sonam C. Chabra, but that is immaterial tonight because we have Nico here with us, whom we've really been waiting to hear from, and we've been dying to talk to him. So, Nico, without further ado, we would like to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, like Steve Jobs rightly said, that you can agree with them, you can disagree with them. You can glorify them or vilify them. But you simply cannot ignore them. Because these revolutionaries are people who change the world. I have one such revolutionary, one such rebel throughout his career, standing right next to me, and I'm so honored to be doing this tonight. Thank you, Nico, for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a small video. We have an AV that we would like to play to tell you a little more about the illustrious life, about the wonderful life of the man standing here with us on stage. Can we have the video, please?
Nico Roozen can be considered as the founding father of the new Solidaridad and the visionary thinker beyond its current strategy and network structure. He has been a rebel throughout his long career. Within 3 years of joining Solidaridad in 1984, he questioned the way supply chains were organized and created the global concept of fair trade. He was accorded the knighthood in the Netherlands for that concept. However, his rebel streak didn't end here. He questioned the way NGOs are continually becoming part of the problem and not part of the solution. And he was a lone voice asking NGOs to work closely with the businesses for a standard solution. He questioned the previous practice of Western NGOs, setting the agenda for the southern countries, and went on developing the unique concept of a truly empowered network organization, the Solidaridad Network. It changed not only Solidaridad, but also the way the world understood sustainability forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nicolas Josephus Maria, or Nico Roozen, like we lovingly call him, ladies and gentlemen, was accorded the knighthood in Netherlands for his years of dedication to fair trade. The knighthood in Netherlands. What an illustrious life. And now, throughout Solidaridad, I don't need to tell you how Nico works or what he does. But yes, there are a couple of aspects of Nico's life and his personality that we don't know about, that we would like to know about. Would we like to know a little more about Nico, the human being, Nico, the family man, Nico, the husband, Nico, the son? Would we? All right, so that's exactly what we are going to do tonight. We are going to dig into some a little offbeat aspects of Nico's personality. So, Nico, I have some tough questions for you tonight. Are you ready with us?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
It's too much honor, but okay. I think what I have done wrong to stand here. Okay.
Or probably what we've done right to be sitting here and listening to you. All right. So, Nico, my first question is that we've heard many times that your father was a bulb grower and a trader. Is that correct?
That's right.
And then you went on to study theology and history. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
But what made you take up this this unconventional choice of education?
I think the fact that my father was a farmer has helped me a lot to do the work I'm actually doing. But in the 70s of the last century, it were roaring times. The youth was in rebellion against the vested interest, and everything was changing. And in this change, I tried to understand where it came from. And history helped me to have a better understanding or what are the challenges of different generations and what are their answers. And I was highly fascinated by the liberation theology in Latin America. So I wanted to know more about that. And for that reason, I studied theology. So history is about our origins, our past, and perhaps theology can help us to understand what could be the values who can bring us to a better future.
Thank you so much, Nico. That was wonderful. My next question to you is, Nico, you are an ideal for a lot of people. People want to be like you. You're a positive influence. People aspire to be like you. But who has been the most positive influence on your career in your work life?
That's an interesting question because I'm now writing for the 15th anniversary of Solidaridad, a small booklet about our history. And there you are going back in our own history. And honestly spoken, I think meetings during 1 week have changed my life. And it was the meetings with Ignacio Ellacorria in San Salvador. He was at that time, in the start of the 80s, the rector, the dean of the University of San Salvador. And each night I had a meeting with him during the civil war in El Salvador. And this conversation has changed my understanding of reality. At that time, Solidaridad was highly supportive and linked to the revolutionary rebellion movements in Latin America, funded in many aspects of this revolution. But the revolution was in crisis. What he learned me during these debates, that people have the right to stand up against injustice. And there was a lot of, and there is still a lot of injustice in Central America. So the people are right in their cause and in their motivation. And the popular movements had leaders with high values and leadership. But what he saw happening after taking up the arms, that other people took the lead of the rebellion, and he was concerned about that. He said, if you are successful, we will create power and we bring people in power, which I fear. So he was concerned about that. But he was mainly concerned about all those victims in the villages in Central America, people who were slaughtered. And he said, for me, it is an ethical question. If you start to take up the arms, and you cannot defend the people who are supportive to you, then you have an ethical issue to address. And we cannot win the war against Reagan, so how do we deal with these issues? And for me, this was a conclusive discussion that Solidaridad has to go another way, that we have to try to transform societies based on economic empowerment. We could not win the struggle for justice in political and economic structures without giving people the force to develop their own society.
How beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Without giving people the power and making them the force. Thank you, Nico. Well, Nico, they say behind every successful man, there's always a woman, right? Of course, we are going to talk about your wonderful better half, Maria, in some time. But I say it's not just a woman behind every successful man. It's an entire family, a loving, cooperative family. And that's what our dear Nico also has. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a look at this video, which is going to tell you a little more, give you a sneak peek into Nico, the family man. Here we go.
Okay.
nice photograph in the end. Was that from some holiday?
In holiday Ibiza. Ibiza.
How cool is that? Can I take your mic, please?
Yes.
Can we take this mic? Can we change this mic? Thank you. Okay, that was interesting holiday photographs out there, huh? Really nice family photographs. So, talking of family, Nico, we all know what a great wife Maria is, but I want to hear it from the man himself. So, what has Maria's role in your professional and in your journey with Solidaridad? How has she helped? What has been her role and contribution?
Thank you. Now you will understand after these pictures that this is the most important gift to my life. Starting with Maria, owned 3 children and 3 grandchildren. So this is the things which gives value to your life. Honestly spoken, I think for me, this first 5 years in our marriage, with 3 children born, were the most exciting period, but also a period of change. We decided, and Maya challenged me to do that, to have 2 part-time jobs, 2 part-time jobs. She had a job, I had a job, only 22 hours in the week. And we shared the caring of our young children, the babies, the young children. And interacting and being responsible for caring for young children, babies, has changed my life. In the sense that when you have to care for your babies and your children, you have to develop affection, love, embracing, kissing, helping children who are crying and you don't understand why. And it makes sense to learn that because there is later in your life you will face quite a lot of understandable behaviors, so it helps you to understand that. So caring for children is changing the attitude of men. In general, I see that the liberation of women is the liberation of men. So caring for children has changed me in the sense that I became a more caring person. A person who can act on physical contact. My father has never embraced me. My father has never kissed me. My father was an excellent guy, but there was always distance. I embrace my children, I kiss my children and grandchildren. So affection is given a chance during this period. So becoming a better cook, becoming a better lover, I would say, was born in that period because affection is created. So we are often discussing gender, but for me it starts in co-sharing the responsibility for the education of your children, because men will change their attitudes when they do that. So Maya was a precious gift of my life in terms of connectivity and love. But of course I'm so grateful for those 3 own children and 3 grandchildren, and we hope that we will have 3 more of them.
No, Nico, you just said that you have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. How can that happen when you're 30 years old? Anyway, all right. So, is your dear wife here with you? Is she accompanying you? Oh, she's not here. But do give her our love. And like Nico said, ladies and gentlemen, that she brought a lot of love, affection, and connectivity to his life and gave him a gift, a precious gift of 3 wonderful children and now 3 wonderful grandchildren. So congratulations. All our love to your entire family. Can we give it up for the entire family, ladies and gentlemen? So Nico, while joining Solidaridad in the early 80s, within the first 3-4 years of your joining the organization, like I said, you've been a revolutionary and a bit of a rebel throughout your career. You changed a lot of things. And you gave everybody a lot of surprises in the way you work. So to throw a little more light upon what happened in the 80s, right when Nico joined Solidaridad, let's take a look at a couple of videos and then we will come back and listen it from the man himself.
Nico was heel helder in zijn standpunten. Hè? En dat, fijn wat ik straks zei, dat openbreken naar de rest van de wereld. Wat we in het begin natuurlijk nogal vreemd vonden, want ja, Solidaridad was voor Latijns-Amerika, punt uit. Hè? Nou, dat openbreken, dus daar was hij heel helder in, dat was 1. En 2, hij was ook heel helder. Ik herinner me dat we nog eens een keer een paar studiedagen erover hebben zitten praten. Hoe kun je het zo organiseren dat mensen van de projecten ter plekke meegaan praten, meegaan handelen, meegaan bepalen wat er al of niet moet gebeuren. Nou, dat kostte natuurlijk
van Nico. Nico was natuurlijk buiten het feit dat hij een man was van de christelijke basisbeweging, was hij ook een kind van een ondernemer. En hij heeft, laat ik zeggen, al vrij snel heeft hij die stap gemaakt van ja, maar we kunnen wel met bewustwording bezig blijven. We moeten naar de handelskant, we moeten naar de productiekant, we moeten naar de hele ketting gaan kijken waarin mensen met elkaar economisch contact hebben.
Nou, hij wist heel goed wat hij wilde. En je moest ook werkelijk waar van hele goede huizen komen, wilde je hem op argumenten verslaan. En Alice en ik hebben zo net nog even gememoreerd.
So these were a couple of messages for you, Nico, and these were a couple of things we wanted to talk about. I'll just switch on your mic. Thank you. So now that's what happened in the 80s when Nico took over from his predecessor Paul, is that correct? So Nico, how was your strategy different from that of Paul's, and did it take a lot of effort for you to make the board and everybody around you understand your vision, which was very, very different?
Thank you. Now, I told you already, this visit in Central America was changing my life, but also have changed the Solidaridad course. So I didn't only visit El Salvador, but also Nicaragua, 6 years after the Sandinistic revolution, and I have visited Mexico. The Usiri Cooperative, Organizar la Esperanza, organize the farmers. So with this message I came back. And honestly spoken, at that time Solidaridad was a very small organization. Only 7 people and only 3 million euros a year, it was our budget. And I made a report for our board. And I asked them to allow me to transform the organization. And this is a painful process. Because after 1 year, no one was left from the staff. I was the only one. And I have to rebuild the organization.
I want to interrupt you here, Nico. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
After 1 year, what happened? Can you say that again for us, please?
There was no one left.
There was no one left.
From the staff was no one left.
And you were the only one who
Yes.
rebuilt the entire organization.
Of course.
Can we give it up for them, please, everybody?
That means in 1 year time, 6 people left the organization. Because this new course was not easy accepted. And gradually, of course, I attracted new people and we could define the new course. But the good thing was, there was support from the board. So I had a very good interaction with the chairperson of the board. And he understood my concerns. And he understood that we have to choose for a new way. And within some years, we could build up an organization with 30, 40 people with a budget of 10, 20 and even more euros. So change can come sometimes with some pain, and managing change is not always not easy, but it is difficult to say goodbye to good friends. But I'm so convinced that this was necessary. We as organization were very vulnerable, just supporting a revolution which couldn't bring real progress for people. And that was a new starting point. And this is our history. We start from there.
All right, so something very, very important that I learned from you today is change is sometimes painful but necessary. So how long did it take you, Nico, for this new strategy of yours, new way of working of yours, to be embedded into Solidaridad's DNA? How long did it take?
Yeah.
How much effort did it take, or I should rephrase?
Now, what a colleague said, and some of our colleagues said that today, I can be quite convincing. So I could energize people and get their commitment to this new path. And of course, I have to remember that at that time, my big friend and colleague, Jeroen Douglas, has joined us. And together with Jeroen, we could create this new strategies, this new policy. And it's created a lot of, and you see that Paul, my predecessor, fully understands that it was needed. It was not easy at that time, but 10 years later he came to me and he said, you have made the right choices, this is the way forward, and this has created what we are now. And look around what we have achieved in this time.
How beautifully put. Thank you so much, Nico, for those learnings. And now, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the new Solidaridad, I mean after Nico joined in the early 1990s, Nico's colleagues, like he just mentioned, Jeroen Douglas and Monique are here with us. So it gives me immense happiness, ladies and gentlemen, to now call upon stage Mr. Douglas and give it up for Miss Monique. Everybody, a loud round of applause. Thank you so much, Monique, for being here with us. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeroen. I can call you Jeroen, right? First of all, this is looking really nice, huh? You look really handsome. It's a gift from India. And Monique, you look really nice in that Indian shawl. I really like it. So now that Jeroen and Monique are here with us, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to know from the horse's mouth, from them. They've been colleagues of Nico since the early 90s. They've seen Solidaridad in its new avatar. So over to you, Jeroen, first. What did you think of Nico, his way of working, and Solidaridad as you joined in?
Wow. There are many words, but I have to be short. So I came from a very revolutionary university, and I joined Solidaridad just after the Berlin Wall fell, and communism was sort of dead. Right. But I came with all these socialist ideals, and the first thing Nico said to me, put them in a fridge. You may need them in 20 or 25 years, but for the time being, we're going to try to make some corrections to the market model. And I think time has come that we may get something out of the fridge again, by the way. But that is what I have never forgot.
All right, thank you. So, Monique, welcome to India. Thank you so much for being here with us. And Monique, what do you think of Nico as a boss and his style of working and his style of management? First-hand review, huh?
Thank you. Well, I mean, that's a simple question. I mean, for me, he has been a fantastic boss. So nothing more I can say, but I will, of course. Because if I take the deep dive, one thing which is, I think, very typical for Nico, that his door is always open. And so you might think, oh, he's the boss, the executive director of that whole network. But still, I mean, in the end, that open door for me very much symbolizes him. And when I translate that... When I translate that to Solidaridad, I can just see so much of him reflected in the organization. So he's all about walking the talk. So when he talks about food security, he talks about accessibility, open door, availability. I mean, there's always a space in his agenda. affordability. Well, I think we have value for money here. And one other thing that I would like to say is this whole thinking of delegating the mandate to the lower levels is also something that he practices as a leader. So the whole principle of participation, of ownership and accountability, he applies also as a boss with his team. And I very much appreciate that. And I think that is what makes people flourish under his leadership.
You said all the good things, Monique. Thank you, but for them. We know that Nico is a great leader and must have been a good boss, and he walks the talk and he's a living example of that. But what was that one thing you were scared of? That's what I want to know.
Well, that one thing I was scared of, I mean, Nico is not easy to convince. So if ever you disagree with him, you better come with good arguments.
So I discovered something, all right? Nico is not easy to disagree with. I better agree with him on everything on stage, all right? Otherwise, I better have some good arguments prepared. Is that correct? All right. Thank you so much, Monique. Thank you so much, Ron. May we request both of you to please take your seat. We don't want you to leave. We want you to be here with us through this talk. And so, we heard from Nico's own colleagues who've been with him since the early 90s about his style of working, about what kind of a boss he's been, what kind of a leader he's been. But there are some more colleagues and some more messages for you, Nico, that we would now like to play. There are some more colleagues who want to say some more things. Can we have the video, please? Can we have the video messages?
Ja, en hij was een interessante baas.
Ja,
We
zeker.
hebben heel veel van hem geleerd.
Ja.
En ook al was het maar als een soort voorbeeld of als een gids in hoe je dingen moet bereiken, hoe je zaken moet vasthouden. En ik kan het nu prachtig verwoorden. Voor mij was het niet altijd heel goed, want ik was al niet de zin.
Hoe vaak zie je niet dat iemand in een bepaald systeem een carrière wil aflopen en hoger op enzovoort en kijkt naar het volgende salaris enzovoort. Dat was er allemaal niet. Het was uitsluitend de inhoud, de drijfveer, de commitment.
So Nico is a bit of a cowboy, you could say. So he has a certain vision, want to make things happen, and then he doesn't take no as for an answer. So he can be really tough as well. And he can go against the current in order to really make things happen. And then he has let's say, he's very good in convincing people. So that way he has managed to make something happen that was against all odds.
Nico is iemand die aan het stuur staat zelf. En die de mensen om hem heen, de mensen van de organisatie, zo heb ik het zelf ook ervaren, alle ruimte geeft om met jouw talenten dat te doen waar je hart naar uitgaat, waar je kracht ligt, waar je hoofd bij kan en waar je dus werkelijk iets kunt doen. Dus aan Nico.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Monique, everybody. And so Nico, here's your mic. And we heard a couple of interesting messages like Nico is a bit of a cowboy. Yeah? And it's a little difficult to say no to him. And he's going to go against the flow to make things happen. So Nico, any remarks on what you just heard? And others' perspective of yours?
No, of course, I recognize the picture described by my good friends during many generations of working with Solidaridad. So I don't have any comments in the sense that I understand what they mean. And the only thing is that what you want to share is that having the leadership in such an organization is also creates a feeling that sometimes it's a little bit lonely at the top. You have a high responsibility for people, for the quality of your program, the people who trust your organization. And in that case, it is so crucial that you have some friends on which you can fully count in the organization. Of course, you have a lot of colleagues, but you need friends for not becoming too lonely at the top.
How beautifully said that a leader can get a little lonely on top. So you need to have a few good friends like we have sitting on stage with us around you. Thank you so much. Talking of leadership and of being a leader, Nico, what are the qualities and essential skill sets that are required to be a leader in Solidaridad? Whether it be, whether it be regional office or the secretariat, what are the qualities required to be a good leader and to lead by example?
I think everything starts with values. So the first value is that if money is trusted to an organization, which is meant for serving public goods, you have to guarantee this money is meant and used for public goods. Public money for public goods. So values and the feeling that you have to be a partner of people who have got much less chances than we have had. So to create values and the integrity of your organization was, I think, is the first characteristic and quality a leader has to have. And of course, I am sometimes disappointed by colleagues we didn't respect that. And honestly spoken, these were the most difficult times in my career, when you have given people trust and they haven't respected the integrity. So it starts with values. And the other thing is, you have to create an ambience, a dynamic in which people can flourish, people can use their talents. So when the picture is that I'm convincing people or a person, or I have some ideas which are quite robust, that's true. But I've always tried to give room to people with more or less the same energy, to test innovation, to come with better ideas than I have, and creating room for excellence is the second and very crucial quality of leadership.
How beautifully put. So values and also creating room for others to flourish, to come up with innovative ideas are very, very important qualities of a leader as per Nico. Thank you so much, Nico. My next question to you is fairly interesting. In 1988, you and Frank Hoff launched the Fair Trade Sustainability Standard. So we want to listen from you, we want to hear from you. What, according to you, were the biggest successes and the biggest failures of fair trade?
Yeah, good question. Critical reflection on what you have done, to learn from it and to improve is the third quality of leadership. Fair trade, I think it was the starting point for making supply chain actors responsible for the origin of a product. And we started with consumers. We invited consumers in Western Europe to pay a better price for a product to guarantee sustainable production circumstances. And this was the starting point. Starting with consumers, and you know the pyramid of change, from consumers to companies, from companies to sectors, and from sectors to policy making. So it was it was an excellent journey started at that moment. Of course, the disappointing aspect of the introducing of fair trade products in the European markets was that the market share was relatively small. So I overestimated the willingness of people to pay for better products. What is the disappointing and what is in the analysis crucial is that what you see that sometimes initiatives you take go their own way. You cannot control everything. And sometimes the institutional interests are prevailing. And I see this happening. So for us it is important to stay and to be an innovator. To be proud of your history, but always see for new potential. How can you engage more people in the movement? How do you avoid thinking in terms of exclusivity? One model has to bring the change. No, we have to create a level playing field which allows people to join in different concepts to make the change work. So it is important that we are proud of our history, but always define the possibilities to tap in new potentials and to move forward. And this is the strength of our organization, and I hope that we can maintain that. The power for innovation.
The power of innovation, respecting our history, but still having room to move forward and believe in innovation and new ideas. Thank you so much, Nico. Now that's very, very interesting, hearing it from the founder himself. But ladies and gentlemen, now we want to hear it from few people who were involved with Nico in the fair trade, who were involved closely in fair trade with Nico. We want to hear it from them and how they see things and their perspective. Can we have the videos, please?
But I know that only thanks to Solidaridad and to the initiative of Nico Roozen, fair trade with coffee as a first product Europe-wide in all fair trade initiatives could never have happened. I know it for Switzerland. We were the second or third fair trade initiative in Europe, and without the support and without the positive example, the pioneer work that Solidaridad and Nico, together with Bert Beekman, had done at that time, Switzerland could never have made that breakthrough that we finally did, not the least with the support of Max Havelaar-Holland and Nico Roozen. I recall, of course, one particular aspect where Solidaridad and Nico played a very important role. This was in connection with the introduction of fair trade bananas. Nico called me and said in 95, we need, or in 97 it was, we in Holland are being hindered by the European banana regime with quotas. You in Switzerland are not. And we have prepared already producer groups, banana producer groups, who are willing to deliver their product into the fair trade markets, and the markets are not there yet because of this European regime. Please go ahead in Switzerland with bananas. Well, still Holland was in first in 96 and we in 97, and only thanks to this push, to this inspiration, to the preparation of criteria, to the preparation of producer organizations that they can fulfill the criteria, we were able to make the breakthrough in the market in Switzerland, and this was the biggest success of Fair Trade Europe overall, because very soon we reached over 50% market share with the fair trade banana. Without the pioneer work of Solidaridad and the support of Nico and of course the other people of Max Havelaar-Holland, this would not have been possible.
My opinion on the fair trade movement for the near and the long term future is of concern. No? Concern is that when we are widening the scopes, we are not always very clear on what we really want. That's one thing. The other thing is we don't think out of the producers' organizations. There's also a problem here. There are no producers, managers, but no producers. And being involved in the producers' movement, I learned a lot of them, and also I got hold on they think differently. We have a kind of typical Occidental rationality, but the small farmers have a typical sabiduria, wisdom, and that doesn't work over. Okay, and that tension, we have to be aware of it, and we have to analyze it, and we have to do something with it. Then I think fair trade on the socio-economic line, but above all on the political line, because fair trade is a political movement. You cannot drop it down to a typical economic affair, a better price, etc. That's bullshit. It is a political movement to change rules of the market, urgently needed. So in that sense, fair trade has a tremendous task, has a tremendous challenge, and if they pick up that challenge, it has a future.
Thank you so much, Monique. Thank you so much. So, we heard about two aspects and two different perspectives on fair trade, Nico. We heard about what a humongous success it had in Switzerland, the huge success that it was in Switzerland, and we also heard about fair trade as a political movement for the producers. But as per another school of thought, some also feel that fair trade is not just another seal for consumers, but also a farmers' political movement. What do you have to say about that?
Now, it's great to see these good friends from a long time ago. Frans van der Hof, a priest who is working with farmers in the south of Mexico, and Rolf Boozer, who has initiated this market share of this introduction in Switzerland. And he was much more successful than I was. In the Netherlands, it was only 12%, what was a breakthrough. But he reached market shares up to 50 to 60%. And that's market transformation. Above 20, you can say it is market transformation. It is a political issue. Of course, we are in Solidaridad discussing these issues of policy influencing. I don't think, honestly, that market concepts are the right vehicle for policy influencing. So I agree with Frans that at the end we have to transform markets, and that has to do with creating policies and good governance which create enabling environments. But I think we have to think in terms of a role division. Markets concepts have to enable, have to take the role to create an economic alternative. But we as Solidaridad can combine those things. We have to develop all kinds of initiatives, and we are developing all kinds of initiatives related to creating a more favorable market condition through policy influencing. And at the same time, we have to create alternatives in the challenging market environment.
Thank you so much, Nico. Nico, we also understand that Solidaridad doesn't promote fair trade movement anymore. What is your advice to those who are going to be working on fair trade in the future and its future course of action? What direction should it go in?
Of course, as a consumer, I am always consuming organic and fair trade products. So it is still the best alternative and the best choice for consumers in the market. But from a perspective of market transformation, we have learned that the consumers cannot be the only drivers of change. And for that reason, we have developed this pyramid of change, including companies. And we have created corporate social responsibility models. We have created dynamics for transformation of sectors, especially for those products which don't have identity in the market. There are hidden ingredients in products like sugar, soy or palm, and you cannot mobilize consumers for that. So you have to diversify your strategies, and in the end, governance has to be improved to create market conditions which are more favorable for what we call green job creation, sustainable development, inclusive development. So one concept will not be the solution. And this is, I think, the basic identity of Solidaridad. Perhaps a director of UTS or Rainforest Alliance or the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil can think and ask for exclusivity for his model. But we have to think from the perspective and the starting point of inclusivity to create the broadest, the most wide concepts which allow people to take their own responsibility.
Thank you so much. Nico, you also went on to create some private sector companies. You went on to create companies like AgroFair, like Orbo Blanco and Kyuchi. Of course, we are going to talk about those. But first, we have some videos that we would like to play, and then we are going to talk about those.
Sometimes if you talk to Nico, he has a sort of vision, and then he talks as if this vision is already reality. Well, it is, sometimes it's not yet a reality. It's a reality in his mind, but not necessarily in reality. And there's just an anecdote that relates to myself, because when I started working for AgroFair, Nico had this idea that AgroFair should become a group of companies, And one of those companies was Agrofair Sourcing, and then other companies like Agrofair Benelux, Agrofair Scandinavia, Agrofair Central Europe, Agrofair UK. So we're then supposed to become the commercial companies. So he asked me to become the managing director of Agrofair Sourcing. And then I said to Nico, okay, but I will live in Ecuador, but I have to go back to the Netherlands, and I need a contract to organize all the kind of things. And then he said, okay, but just make a draft contract yourself. And I was sort of convinced that Agrofair Sourcing was actually an existing company. So I made a contract between Nico Roozen and Agrofair Sourcing Limited Company. And I sent it and made some change, and then he signed the contract. So that was my contract, which I used for all kind of paperwork in order for my return to the Netherlands. And also I had at that time Ecuadorian partner who went with me, so we needed to demonstrate that I had a contract, etc. And then it turned out when I started working in Agrofair that Agrofair Sourcing didn't exist. So it existed in the vision of Nico, but not really on paper in practice.
El privilegio ser parte del equipo que elaboró uno de los primeros proyectos de solidaridad de cultivos orgánicos en el Perú, allá por el año 2000, proyecto que devino en la empresa Oro Blanco, del cual fui gerente general. Gracias al liderazgo de Nico, construimos capacidades productivas con responsabilidad social y ambiental. Le deseo a Nico en esta nueva etapa de su vida mis mejores parabienes y más éxitos para Solidaridad.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Also, my friends here, all my friends from Solidaridad, may we request you to please fill in your glasses, fill in your plates, and come sit down. Come sit down, because this is once in a lifetime opportunity that you're going to hear it from the leader himself. Let's respect that fact and let us all come sit down. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody at the bar. I hope you're listening to me. Thank you. Okay, coming back to our rock star, Nico. Nico, our next question to you is that you started businesses while working with an NGO. Is that correct? And companies like Agrofair became Europe's largest fair trade fruit company. And you also started fashion brands like Kyuchi. Am I pronouncing it right? Kyuchi? All right, that's a very interesting name, though. So you did all of this at a time when most NGOs didn't have the capacity or maybe the ideological willingness to actually work with businesses. What took you take this unconventional path?
My general understanding of this issue is that indeed it is not a role of NGOs or civil society organizations to start businesses. It is better and more effective to change existing businesses, running businesses who already have a market share and have a running business. That's more effective on the short term. But for example, in bananas, it was impossible. In the mid of the 19th, we have a very oligopolistic market with only three major players: Chiquita, Fives, Del Monte, those companies, and they were a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. Of course, we negotiated with them. I clearly remember my discussions with the Chiquita staff in Ecuador. And when I explained them that $3.50 for a box of bananas was not the right price for bananas. And they just said, the market price is always saying the truth. The market price is the right price. So we couldn't work with them. And then you can consider to set up a company to break open the market, to create an alternative in the market. But then, even then, if you have done that, you have to aim for creating followers. And now quite a lot of existing companies have followed our example. Because you only create businesses in this function, in this role, when you have to break open the market, to set an example, because you don't have acceptance among the existing players.
Thank you so much. Now, my next question is not to Nico. My next question is to Mr. Douglas, who's sitting here with us.
All right. Thank you.
So, sir, you were one of the co-founders of Agrofair and Kyuchi with Nico, right? First of all, I'm going to ask you a very out of context question. What was the inspiration behind naming this fashion brand Kyuchi? What does it mean? A. B. What was your experience and your learnings on working with these companies with Nico?
So to start with the first, Koichi means in Andean Indian language from Peru, it means the god of the rainbow. And the story goes as follows, that human beings were doing bad to each other. They were sinful, and God punished human beings by taking the color out of the life. So people were punished to live in a black and white world. And the God of the rainbow said to the people, only if you start weaving orderly and with the right colors, I will give you back color to life. So Koichi is, in that sense, the color to the life. That is the meaning of the word.
Thank you. So that's the meaning of Koichi, the god of rainbow, bringing back colors to life. Thank you so much. And now the second part of the question.
Yeah, which is a totally different part. Well, I have to say, Nico is like a intellectual father to me, so he has a brilliant mind, and that is the way he sees the transformation. A little bit to what the colleague says, he has the power of the imagination to develop a new vision that most of us maybe intuitively feel, but you know how to articulate that and to bring it to that level, so it is contagious. So bringing that strong vision is sort of absorbing at least my mind, and it became all of a sudden so logical. So to me, what I did was just being attached to this mindset and put all my energy into it, and sort of the rest comes automatically. It is one logic step after the other, and then we managed to create, with very good staff, a new reality in the market. So that is the miracle Solidaridad has been doing over the last 25 years.
Thank you so much. So bringing a clarity, bringing a vision along the way while working with Nico is what you got. Thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to ask you another question. Tell us about a time that you and Nico had a big disagreement.
Well, I think we currently have on our...
And is Nico an easy man to work with, or is he not?
I have always found it very easy to work with you, Nico. But yeah, because we understand each other very easily. We have quickly understanding on ideas. You manage to lift the ideas to a next level. I always try to push it forward. You bring it up. And so it was like a perfect, and it is like a perfect combination to work every day. Serious conflicts we may have had on conflict not, but jointly looking for new propositions. Sometimes we have different starting points, and then it is like a ping pong to find the right proposition. For instance, now we are working hard to find the right proposition for our digital strategy. And then sometimes we disagree. And then we have the power, I think, to listen to each other, to learn from each other. And then we have thesis, antithesis, and then hopefully always the synthesis. So that is a bit the way I have learned to work with you, Nico.
Thank you. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's such a beautiful answer and such a beautiful way of working together and growing together. Thank you so much. Can we give it up for Mr. Douglas, everybody? So, Nico, it's clear that your approach of working with businesses created a new group of business supporters for Solidaridad globally. I would now like to present, Nico, some messages from your long-term business associates. So these are some loving messages from your long-term business associates who eventually turn into friends. Here we go.
Wat ik heel fijn vond is dat Nico ook heel veel begrip en erkenning had voor de moeilijke rol die een duurzaamheidsmanager in een grote multinational heeft. Om een groot bedrijf met veel commerciële belangen, om daar te zorgen dat verduurzamen op de agenda blijft staan, is best een hele uitdaging.
I have known Nico for about 2 decades. And I remember during my days with Unilever, having worked with him in developing the sustainability agenda on a global scale for beverages. And in particular, when we created the Trustee program, a sustainability program for tea, specifically for the India market, which is today one of the largest sustainability programs for a particular crop in one country. Nico, all along this journey, has been a mentor and an inspiration for us to move forward. In my dealings with Nico, what impressed me always was the clear vision that he had on sustainability and how to move this forward with a very simple, humble approach, taking it with business and with the stakeholders, which are largely the smallholders which were affected by most of these programs. It's a fact known that Nico has been probably the person who started fair trade movement in a large way, and today it is something known across the globe. He was behind the Max Havelaar beginning, he was behind the UTS beginning, and in recent past he has been the backbone of Solidaridad. I think Nico's achievements in mobilizing global markets to affect social, economic change at the smallholder level, and also to be able to get businesses, stakeholders, including civil society, onto a platform and create programs which are acceptable to all different parts of a supply chain is the huge achievement that he has managed to do. Under his direction, I have seen Solidaridad grow into an internationally renowned organization with expertise in the development of models which bridge the gap between smallholders, industry and retail. I think it's a huge, huge change. I'm sure that you will all agree that Nico has a heart of gold in his handling of people, whether it be within the organization or outside the organization.
It has been long 10 years of our association with Solidaridad, who in the early days when we wanted to implement the sustainability program in India among the small growers, they were the one who supported us, and through their support we were able to bring in the coffee producers, small grower producers of India together to form a growers group, which was called as the Net Commodities Growers Group that time. So definitely this would not have been possible without the support of a visionary like Nico Roozen, who had the experience of doing this kind of a job in implementation of sustainability program in Mexico in the 1980s. So he supported us to carry on with our sustainability program in India as well, and we were able to achieve very good results that time. And during the year 2011, he had come down and he visited us, and he planted this tree that time, which has grown into a big tree right now, and I hope you will remember this. And so seeds which were planted that time for this sustainability program has grown in a big scale, and we have a large grower producers group with us right now in India. So we are continuing with the project, and all thanks to Nico.
All right, so those were a few messages from Nico's long-term business associates. And see, Nico, how much you've influenced and how many lives you have impacted. And we also saw the tree whose seeds you had sown. How beautiful was that? So moving on, Nico, my next question to you goes something like this, that at a time when NGOs and businesses would not even interact, how did you manage to initiate cooperation from the private sector? How did you convince businesses to work with Solidaridad and even invest in projects? How did that happen?
Now, honestly spoken, I think it is time to be to share with you that I'm a little bit shy about all this information, because for sure I couldn't have done anything without the support of so many people, all these people in gathering here tonight. So that's my first point I want to share with you after so many nice quotes of people. Honestly spoken, I think I am not so successful engaging companies. It is a hard job to do. It is tough because companies have a very short timeline in their thinkings, and profit is seen as their main and first ambition. So I don't think that up to now we can say that through our engagement with companies we have changed the world. It are modest and small results. For that reason, I think next year we will start this process moving to our new ambitious 2025. And I think we have to review our understanding of what supply chain actors can play and the role they can take in innovations. We have to define a much broader field with more players to achieve our goals. So there are successes, but given the urgency of the change needed, we have to change our strategies and include more parties and more dynamics in our approaches.
Thank you so much. My next question to you, Nico, I asked too many questions, huh? So thank you for patiently answering all of them for us. My next question to you, Nico, is that you managed to form this very innovative, successful Solidaridad network. So what were the challenges that you faced while... what was the biggest challenge in setting up this new network structure, and how did you implement this?
I've shared this morning with you in my speech at the conference that I think that the most important innovation of Solidaridad is its structure, because this is the lasting, underlying structure which enables us in the future to deliver to our agenda. And I'm so sure that what we have done, this decision to build our programming based on people which have a high and good understanding of their own local context, and see how then and try to modify general global strategies and relate them to their local context and create what is doable and what is achievable. So I think this was the right choice, and this is the good energy. This is the way forward. What I have underestimated in this process is the attitude of me and other colleagues in the West. The office in Utrecht had an enormous challenge to implement this principle of delegation of mandates. So we were accustomed to a practice that we will not only giving money, but we will managing a project management cycle. And all knowledge and energy was related to this approach. And to understand that in the future, the success of your colleagues is decisive for success, needs a mindset, a change in mindset. And it took much more time to go through this transition. So cultural change, a change in attitudes, to be supportive and see that the success of your colleagues is your success, is a long process to go. And I think we are, we have gone far on this road, but we are not really there.
Thank you so much, Nico, and congratulations on setting up this new network structure, the Solidaridad network. So we want to showcase some more messages from some of your friends and well-wishers, what they have to say about this. Can we play the messages, please?
Ik ben er in ieder geval trots op dat ik zeg maar, zoveel jaren in de Solidaridad heb mogen zitten en zo zeg maar, mee heb kunnen maken zeg maar, hoe dat zich ontwikkeld heeft. Ook zeg maar, inclusief zeg maar, de mondialisering die nou intussen plaatsgevonden heeft. Hè. De Solidaridad zeg maar, heeft zich een organisatie in ontwikkeling getoond. Die het ontwikkelproces ook heel goed vorm heeft gegeven en ook heel goed inhoud aan heeft gegeven. En dat is natuurlijk met name te danken aan mensen als Nico en mensen die zeg maar, verder ook voor Solidaridad werken.
Hi there, brothers and sisters from Southeast Asia Solidaridad Network. Happy 10th anniversary. Let me share with you a wisdom of my country, who say that if you want to build up a brilliant future, you need to lean on your past. And I wish you a brilliant future. For that, you need to lean on your founder. And this founder, Nico Roozen, is a man of conviction, is a man of vision. It's a man who dedicated his life by serving others and humanity. And I really wish you to be this wreck that will be serving your people and humanity.
It's been a great honor to work with you and Solidaridad team. Your contribution, sustainability staff, and equitable and nutritious global food system has given a great impact to the society and especially for our smallholders in Indonesia. As far as I know, the collaboration between you and Dr. Satadru is such a good synergy for the sustainable development. And it's been also impact to our Indonesian Solidaridad team in Indonesia. Thank you. And therefore, I really appreciate your handwork and I wish you luck for your future in the fall. I will miss you, Pak Nico. We have been has a very good discussion with you and fruitful impact after we discuss some of them already done together with your team in Indonesia. And for that matter, I say again to you, thank you very much. Nico, your voice still can influencing the sustainable development in all over the world, and also Indonesia still need your voice.
Well, thank you. That's all. May we request you to please take your seats. And now, moving on to something very important, ladies and gentlemen. May we invite on stage three of Nico's executive board colleagues who've been part of the Solidaridad network right from the beginning. It gives me immense happiness to be welcoming our stage three of our very important special guests who are here with us tonight. Been part of the Solidaridad network right from the beginning. Please give it up for Shatadru, Gonzalo, and Karugu, everybody. The other founding managing directors of the Executive Board and Continental Supervisory Boards. Ladies and gentlemen, the three pillars. Let's give a loud round of applause for them. So we're going to start with you, Shatadru. How has it been working with Nico since the beginning of setting up of this Solidaridad network? What were the challenges you faced? Ever had a major disagreement? And then who won?
Well, I mean, first of all, nobody can win with Nico. Yeah.
Nobody can win with Nico, huh?
He will always have his own reasons. But I remember very emotionally, the first time I met Nico, I was, just beginning my career in development cooperation world. I was working for an NGO, and we were protesting outside a German supermarket in Amsterdam called Aldi's, where we were protesting against cheap coffee prices, and we were saying that such cheap prices will not help the smallholder farmers. And I was told there is this gentleman who is going to come. He's with the industry. He supports industry. He is a corporate guy. And I see a suited guy coming in and about to talk, and we were all activists at that time, who starts talking about the cheap prices on coffee. And he said, the best message he gives is, it's not acceptable. This cheap prices doesn't allow. And I could see this gentleman, and I understood first time, this is Nico Roozen, who was telling to the whole world, behind his suit was the emotion and the empathy he had for the smallholders who were growing coffee. And he was telling that, that the coffee supermarket, the supermarkets, the coffee roasters need to pay a reasonable price for the livelihood of the smallholders. And that was life-changing for me. I started understanding that don't go and understand a person by the dress he wears, but the emotion and the passion he has got for the people. And that's Nico for me. And that at that time, I was about to settle down in Brazil. I was about to start working in Brazil. I decided to quit that option, and I started working with Nico. That was 2004. So that is a life-changing thing for me.
How beautiful, how beautiful. So the book had a different color. The book had a different cover, and it read differently, huh?
Absolutely.
Behind that suited, booted man, there was a man with a heart. There was a man with heart. Thank you so much, Shatadru, for that, sharing that wonderful incident with us. So over to you, sir. Any interesting incident that you can remember from all the times, from all the years that you've worked with Nico? Anything interesting that you can share with us about him? All the good things we know, sir.
You hear me? Yes. Well, Solidaridad has gone into different changes and challenge over time. I already mentioned in the morning that I knew Nico and Solidaridad when it was a very small organization. And I remember once, it was 2001. I was with Nico in his office in Utrecht. And on those days, Solidaridad was used to working in partnership with other organizations. So they don't have any infrastructure, office, nothing outside of Utrecht. And I was still working with Jeroen, and then we were together. And I was telling Nico, if we really want to do this in the textile sector, we need to invest. And we cannot do this through simple partnership because this entails high risks, and high risks come with high opportunity, highest opportunities, and it's difficult for our partners to offer that. So we must establish our own offices. And he was reluctant. He was saying, well, but perhaps this, I already knew what they say, that Nico is not easy to convince. But finally, I think he saw it. And then we founded the first office of Solidaridad in Lima. The next year will be 15 years of that office. And later on, that lay out the foundation for what we have as a network. And so we will have, I will have next year 20 years working with Nico. And I can say that his main virtue, what I learned, is that he allows people to grow and the ideas to grow. That's fantastic. So he sets the principles, he finds the people, and we have grown really, really a lot. So I want to thank you, Nico.
Thank you, Gonzalo. That was pretty interesting. And one thing that we know about Nico is that he has a clear vision and he sets the principles. But like Gonzalo said, he allows people to flourish, allows them to grow. Thank you. Thank you. But very politically correct. No interesting, no spice there. No interesting incidents you told me about Nico and you, huh? But okay. Karugu, over to you. I have high hopes from you, huh? And ladies and gentlemen, let me also tell you that today is special for Karugu as well, as today he's attending his last board meeting. Is that correct?
Indeed.
So a loud round of applause for Karugu, everybody. So Karugu, some interesting incident memories with Nico that you have, we would love to know from you.
Okay, I think for me the first thing that happened is I asked my colleague here, Gonzalo, when I joined Solidaridad, how often do we have to consult with Nico? And then he told me, if Nico calls you, there is trouble. If he doesn't call you, everything is going on okay. So that was one incident. But I think the interesting one, which I can possibly share with you, is we had a meeting. Our first board meeting was in Peru. And I was sitting next to Shatadru. And then as the meeting continued, I fell asleep.
Wait, Karugu, I'm going to interrupt you here. You fell asleep during the meeting.
No, well, I'll explain. Not really asleep. If you want to put it in computer terms, I was defragmenting so that I could optimize my system. However, so...
A loud round of applause for this gentleman here, please.
So then what happened is he asked me, why are you sleeping? Then my colleague here, Shatadru, I told him I was not sleeping, but I was consulting my ancestors back in Africa. So that was a light moment for all of us. Otherwise, for Nico, it has always been, we have not had disagreement with him. He's tough in the sense he stands his ground, but in most cases we've not had issues that would make any one of us move out of the office, banging the door behind him or shouting at each other. So thank you very much, Nico.
So you will understand that it's great to work with these guys, and they are good friends. We all know this story of Karugo consulting his ancestors. But the problem was, he never shared the wisdom of the ancestors with us. So, Karugo.
Thank you so much, Karugu. Thank you for not consulting your ancestors back in Africa today. Thank you for being wide awake. And thank you for being so honest and interesting. Thank you. So moving on, I would want to move on to you, Nico, and to ask you about when you look back at all those years with Solidaridad, is there anything you feel you would have wanted to do differently than you did?
Oops. That is, of course, what I want to comment on what colleagues are saying. There is always more doubt in my mind than perhaps I show. So if I make the impression that I'm very convinced of all issues, or have the very outspoken opinion, that's not my own self-assessment or self-evaluation, in the sense that Perhaps my first reaction can be that it is not clear and easy to see what is happening in my mind. So I want to be a good listener, and I want to be a person who always reconsider his thoughts. And I have learned a lot of my colleagues, and not only in the leadership teams of Solidaridad, but all my colleagues in Solidaridad. So I couldn't do what I've done without all these discussions and learning from others. But indeed, when a decision is made and a course is set, we try to make it successful and be committed to that. I think what I could say, what could you have done better? I would say what I could have done better was making an earlier decision to transform the organization from a Western-based organization into an international organization. That would be a much smarter decision, and we could have taken this decision, say, 5-6 years earlier. And they helped me to give the confidence that it is worthwhile to do.
And I think it takes a very courageous man to actually stand up and say that. Thank you so much. One last question, Nico. I know I've asked too many. One last question. Thank you for all your patience. What do you think is the future, the way forward for the Solidaridad network? Say by 2030, where do we see ourselves?
Now, first I want to thank you for the patience. We have discussed this many times. I think I always am very proud of what we are doing when I'm visiting our programs in Africa and Latin America and Asia. But what concerns me is what we call the speed and scale. The urgency of change is, for me, the reason for thinking about how can we scale up our activities and bring it to a much higher level. So I hope that we can define the strategies for the next 10 years to be effective in scaling up and speeding up the change, because otherwise too many people are suffering, and we are entering in a very critical period of this planet, and we have to speed up. So this is my major ambition, to contribute to the thinking and setting the strategies for making our innovations more relevant and make them to the norm of our society.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as Nico is about to close his illustrious innings as the executive director and also going to take on a new role of mentoring the organization, here's a small message that we have for you that we would like to play. Can we see the message, please?
Beste Nico, je gaat nu je werk afronden, deze fase van je werk. Dat is werk, maar op dat moment, dit moment, wil ik je vooral zeggen als mens, als vriend, als persoon, hoezeer ik je altijd heb gewaardeerd om wie je bent, de moed die je uitstraalt, ja, soms heldhaftigheid om toch maar door te gaan wanneer het moeilijk werd. Dat heb ik altijd heel erg in je gewaardeerd. Je bent een goed mens, je bent een groot mens, je bent een mens met talenten en je hebt ze verdorie niet in de grond gegraven. Je bent erop uitgegaan en je hebt met die talenten heb je winst gemaakt. Je bent naar de beurs gegaan. Je hebt gezorgd dat er gepresteerd werd. En tegelijkertijd weten we met elkaar dat hoezeer we het goede ook wilden, hoezeer we ook willen en wilden dat de mensen aan de onderkant volwaardig zouden leven, niet voor de tijd sterven, dat het een verdorie moeilijke wereld is, dat we, hoezeer we ook in het hart willen zitten van de processen, we toch vaak naar de marge gedrongen worden. Maar Dat heeft ons er niet van weerhouden om door te gaan. Jij op jouw manier, ik op mijn manier. En nogmaals, met grote dank omdat je iemand als ik, die misschien ook met een paar talentjes, maar weer toch van een heel ander kaliber, dat je de grootmoedigheid gehad hebt om mij de kansen te geven die je me hebt willen geven, dat ik daarin heb kunnen groeien en kunnen zijn wie ik heb willen zijn, wie ik wil zijn. Nou, daarvoor heel veel dank. We gaan samen nu een nieuwe periode in ons leven tegemoet. Een mooie periode. Ik bedoel, een boom die bloeit en er komen vruchten aan, maar het rijpingsproces is natuurlijk het allermooiste. Dus zonder nu hier een oude mensenverhaal van te maken, ik hoop dat je in die rijpheid van deze nieuwe levensfase gelukkig mag zijn met Maria, met je kinderen, met je kleinkinderen. Een gelukkig mens en dat geluk wat je zelf beleeft en dat eigenlijk de basis is van alles. Ja, dat je dat in je werkzame leven hebt kunnen uitstralen en realiseren voor zoveel andere mensen die een beter inkomen krijgen, betere leefomstandigheden. Ja, ik hoop dat je met dankbaarheid daaraan kunt terugdenken. Dankbaar om jezelf, grootmoedig, wanneer je denkt van, nou, dit is niet gelukt of dit had anders gekund. Dus een tevreden mens en dit nog tot in heel veel lengte van hele lange dagen. Dankjewel, Nico.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being the best executive director ever. And all the best as you take up your new role of mentoring the organization. If you have any message for Team Solidaridad Asia, you can please give us your message.
Let's dance.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
बाद में न कहना कुछ भी पहले ही दे दूं वार्निंग पार्टी चलेगी till 6 in the morning जी भर के ना चले वे भी नाच नाच के तोड़ दे सैंडल आंटी पुलिस बुला लेगी तो यार तेरा कर लेगा हैंडल सूचना जनहित में जारी जिसको अपनी जान प्यारी चुपचाप वो फ्लोर पे आके नाचे गाए नखरे बखरे ना दिखाए शर्म को करते बाय बाय माइकल जैक्सन वाले 2-3 एक्शन करके दिखाए
All right, that's a token of love for our lovely Nico from all of us. Thank you for all that you have done for Solidaridad. Thank you, Nico.